Your reality just fractured and you didn't even notice. 3 weeks ago, maybe less, something shifted in your awareness, not because you meditated or did anything special, but because your consciousness spontaneously reorganized itself. And now, everything feels off. Time moves weird. Coincidences are stacking up. Your sleep is chaos. People keep asking if you're okay. Here's what's actually happening. You're mid-breakthrough. Your nervous system is upgrading to process reality at a completely different frequency. The disruption you're experiencing isn't a problem, it's recalibration. This video will show you the exact signs that confirm you're in transition, what's happening in your biology right now, and how to move through this phase without collapsing back into your old patterns. You're not losing your mind, you're remembering what you actually are.
Pause for a moment. Set aside whatever you're holding. Take a look at the space around you and really ask yourself this question. What made me click on this specific video right at this precise time? Not just roughly why, but exactly why. Because right now, out of the countless videos flooding your feed, something caused you to pause here. Something pulled you in. Something quietly signaled that this moment matters in a way you can't fully put into words yet. That something wasn't chance. It wasn't just the algorithm doing its thing. It wasn't pure luck or random scrolling on your part. What led you here is the same intelligence that's been creating increasingly unusual moments in your life these past few weeks. The same force that's been dropping hints you keep almost catching but haven't quite put together yet. The same energy that pulls you awake at 3, 1, 7 inches the morning with your heart pounding and your mind strangely awake, receiving insights you don't yet have a way to understand? You're here because your transformation has already begun. Not beginning, not about to begin, but already started. Past tense. Done deal. The quantum shift that people spend years meditating for and manifesting toward and hoping will arrive has already activated within your system. And here's the part that's going to feel impossible until you experience it directly in your whole being. You can't reverse it. You can't undo it. You can't return to the person you were just 3 weeks back. Even if part of you wishes you could, the threshold has been crossed. The point of no return has been passed. The only direction that exists now is forward into something your present identity has absolutely no roadmap for. I know the thought that just went through your mind. Here's another spiritual video promising change. Here's another person claiming they've got special insights. Here's another clip that's going to tell me I'm unique and then try to sell me something. Your doubt makes sense. It's there to protect you. It's completely valid. Hold on to it, because what I'm sharing isn't about belief systems or philosophy or thinking positively. This is about actual physics showing up in your real experience right this second. And the riskiest thing you could possibly do is just believe what I'm saying. Don't believe any of it. Just notice what's genuinely happening in your life right now and check if the pattern I'm describing fits what you're seeing. About 3 weeks ago, maybe a few days off either way, something shifted. You might not pinpoint the exact second. It probably wasn't anything big. Maybe you were behind the wheel and suddenly felt like you were watching yourself drive instead of being the driver. Maybe you were talking with someone and noticed yourself speaking as though the words were flowing from somewhere beyond you. Maybe you opened your eyes one morning and the quality of light seemed changed, not darker or brighter, just essentially different in a way you couldn't describe to anybody. Whatever that moment was, it split things open. It created a clear divide between who you were before and the version that's been running since then. And that split has been getting wider each day. You've been chalking the weirdness up to stress, to not getting enough rest, to spending too much time on screens, to the general overwhelm of existing in this moment. But somewhere underneath all those logical explanations, you understand something else is going on, something that doesn't match the usual categories we have for human experience. Here's what actually happened in that splitting moment. Your consciousness, which had been functioning within a very particular range your whole life, suddenly stretched beyond its old limits. Not because of meditation or substances or spiritual techniques, but through what quantum biologists describe as spontaneous coherence. Your neural pathways spontaneously reorganize themselves into a more complex pattern. And once that shift in organization happens, it keeps moving forward. It can't move backward. The wave has already settled into a new form, and there's no way to unsettle it. The scientific name for what you're going through is quantum decoherence reversal. But let me translate what that means for your everyday living experience. Because the physics terminology doesn't help unless you can spot the signs in your regular life. When your consciousness runs at its usual range, you experience the world through a particular set of lenses. Time seems to move in a straight line. Cause and effect appear straightforward. Your sense of self feels steady. You're clear on what you enjoy, what you think, who you are. These lenses create a stable, predictable way of being, sometimes dull, but safe, controllable, within the realm of normal possibility. But when decoherence reversal kicks in, those lenses start breaking down. Time stops moving in a straight line. You'll be in a meeting and suddenly have no clue if 5 minutes went by or 50. You'll check your schedule and be genuinely surprised it's Thursday already, or puzzled why Monday feels like it's lasting an entire week. This isn't about managing your time poorly or having focus issues. This is your awareness literally moving out of sequential processing into what physicists describe as probability cloud awareness. You're beginning to sense multiple possible timelines at once. Instead of experiencing one clean story from past to future, cause and effect start getting mixed up. You'll think of someone you haven't connected with in years, and they'll message you 20 minutes after. You'll feel a sudden impulse to drive a different way to work and find out later there was a crash on your normal route. You'll have a dream about a specific conversation and then live that exact conversation the following day with all the same weird phrases. Your logical mind will keep trying to label these as coincidences, but they're showing up too often now. The connection has become impossible to ignore. Your thoughts and your lived reality are starting to merge in ways that break everything you learned about how things work. The shift in your sense of self has probably been the most unsettling piece. You see your face in the mirror and recognize it, but you feel like you're looking at someone unfamiliar. Not in a disconnected way, but in a clear way, like you're actually seeing the person for real, instead of through the haze of who you thought you were meant to be. People who've been in your life for years keep checking if you're all right, if something happened, if you've changed somehow, and you haven't made any big changes. You haven't restructured your life or picked up new beliefs, but something core has transformed in how you take up space, and others can sense it even if they can't put words to it. Drop a word in the comments that captures the energy you're stepping into today. Trust, flow, joy, ease, power, whatever feels true for you right now. Your word matters. Let it be a declaration you're sending not just here but out into the quantum field itself. The transformation moving through you isn't happening because you're more special or selected or advanced than anyone else. That's just ego attempting to understand something that has zero to do with personal achievement. What's going on is that consciousness itself is shifting on this planet right now. The frequency of information available has increased to a level where certain nervous systems are automatically upgrading to handle the expanded input. You didn't earn this. You can't prevent it. Your biology is responding to a planetary shift the same way humans in previous generations responded when oxygen content changed or temperatures shifted. Evolution unfolds, whether people agree to it or not. But here's where things get tricky. Just because the transformation started doesn't guarantee it finishes. This is the piece most spiritual guides leave out, because it makes their message more complicated. Quantum decoherence reversal begins spontaneously, but it settles conditionally, which means the shift that activated in you will either lock in completely as a permanent new way of operating, or it will shut down. It will fold back into your old patterns, and the time frame where that gets determined is right now. Not symbolically, actually, right now. In this window you're in, which usually runs between 3 and 6 weeks from when it started, the breakdown starts with sleep. These past few weeks, your sleep structure has been totally scrambled, hasn't it? You're either sleeping 12 hours and waking up wiped out, or sleeping 4 hours and waking up with strange energy. Your dreams have turned intense, meaningful, and sometimes frightening. You're dreaming you're in locations you've never visited but that feel more real than your waking life. You're dreaming you're speaking words and languages you don't understand. You're dreaming you're watching yourself from above your body, seeing scenes from a bird's eye view, like footage from a documentary. These aren't meaningless dreams. This is your consciousness working to process the new range it's tapping into. During regular sleep, your brain files away daily experiences and does basic upkeep. During transformation integration, your consciousness is literally reconstructing its whole system for perceiving reality. Every night while you're asleep, neural connections that have been running identical patterns for decades are being trimmed and rewired. Fresh pathways are forming between areas that didn't talk to each other before. Your default mode network, the brain region that creates your feeling of being a continuous self, is being rebuilt. This is why you wake up feeling like you've traveled somewhere else. Because in a way, you have. Not in the sense of your spirit leaving your body, but in the sense that consciousness isn't trapped inside your skull. Your awareness has been reaching information fields that exist beyond the edges of your physical brain. And when you come back to regular waking awareness, there's a delay, a couple of seconds, where you need to remember who you are, where you are, what year this is. That delay is your awareness relocating itself back into the exact coordinates of your individual identity. The physical signs have been building too. Unexplained tightness in your chest that isn't panic but isn't exactly pleasant either. A feeling like electricity moving through your arms and legs, especially during the night. Your body temperature swinging where you're suddenly burning up or freezing, regardless of how warm or cool the room actually is. Ringing sounds in your ears that appear and disappear with no pattern. Your digestion being off. Your skin feeling extra sensitive where fabric feels too scratchy or touch feels overwhelming. Headaches that medication doesn't touch. Your doctor wouldn't detect anything wrong. These signs aren't medical conditions. They're recalibration signals. Your nervous system is expanding its ability to process energy and information. And that expansion creates short-term instability in your physical body. The tightness in your chest is your heart field getting bigger. The electricity in your arms and legs is your cellular structure adapting to hold higher frequency information. The temperature changes are your hormonal system rebalancing. The ear ringing is your hearing starting to detect frequencies it used to block out. These feelings are uncomfortable, but they're not harmful. They're proof that the transformation is working through you at the body level. Then there's the breakdown in your social world. This is usually the most difficult part. People you felt connected to suddenly feel far away. Conversations that used to flow easily now feel awkward and empty. You're finding yourself with less and less tolerance for surface-level chat, for pretending, for keeping up relationships that are built on who you used to be instead of who you're turning into. And the hardest piece is you can't make this make sense to anyone. Because how do you tell your closest friend that you care about them but being in their presence feels like wearing clothes that have stopped fitting? How do you explain to your family that you're not sad or having a breakdown, you're just experiencing the world in a completely different way than you did 4 weeks ago? Some connections will make it through this shift, the ones built on real resonance, instead of just shared history or habit. But many won't. And that loss is part of the breaking down that needs to happen before the breaking through can complete. You're not deliberately pushing people away. You're releasing versions of yourself that needed those connections to stay the same. The relationships that were keeping you locked in your old identity can't survive your movement into a new one. This sounds brutal, but it's automatic. Like a snake releasing its old skin. The outer layer has to completely separate for the fresh skin underneath to show itself. What you're living through right now is what spiritual seekers call the dark night, what therapists call ego death, what scientists call phase transition. Different words, identical experience. The framework that organized your reality is breaking apart before the new framework has completely taken shape. You're in the opening, the emptiness, the territory between who you were and who you're becoming. And this territory is terrifying, because humans are creatures who create meaning. We need stories that make sense. We need to grasp what's happening and why. But transformation doesn't occur within your current way of understanding. It breaks that understanding first. The meaning arrives later, after you've moved through the chaos. Here's what nobody shares about spiritual awakening, or quantum shifts, or consciousness evolution, or whatever language you prefer. It doesn't feel illuminating while it's unfolding. It feels like everything you relied on is falling apart. Your body doesn't feel trustworthy. Your mind doesn't feel solid. Your emotions swing dramatically between absolute joy and crushing hopelessness. Your connections fracture. Your certainties melt. The things that mattered before stop mattering. The things you never considered suddenly feel desperately important. You're losing your mind, in the most actual sense. The mind you had, the one that understood how to move through your old reality, is being shut down. And this is where most people stop the process. This is where the transformation that began automatically gets collapsed back into what's familiar. Because the human nervous system will always pick known suffering over unknown possibility, unless it gets a solid reason not to. Your survival instincts don't care about expansion or evolution, or becoming your best version. They care about staying alive. And alive equals predictable. Alive equals known. Alive equals within the limits of what you've already proven you can handle. So your ego, which is really just a bundle of survival strategies that have been operating since you were small, starts creating massive resistance. It plants doubt, makes you wonder if anything unusual is really happening, or if you're just having an extended stress reaction. It generates shame, makes you feel like you should be managing this better, like everyone else has their act together and you're completely falling apart. It creates pressure around practical stuff, reminds you about money and duties, and being a responsible adult. All of this is designed to yank you back into your previous way of operating before the shift locks in. But before we go deeper into what happens next, I want to invite you into something genuine. If you've been sensing like something's clicking into place, if part of you is waking up to your own power, tap like if you just had a realization, because energy attracts similar energy, and subscribe. Stay in this space. Expand with us. This isn't just content. This is a frequency. If you sensed a shift or a change while watching, you're already tuned in. We're not just consuming information here. We're practicing new ways of existing. We're not just absorbing. We're opening possibilities. We're not just studying. We're remembering. I'm genuinely grateful you're here. Let's keep expanding and transforming together. But here's what your ego doesn't grasp. The transformation isn't optional at this point. The process already began. The only decision now is whether it finishes consciously with your participation or unconsciously while your system battles itself. If you fight what's attempting to happen, if you try to squeeze yourself back into your old patterns and connections and sense of identity, you won't halt the transformation. You'll just make it exponentially more brutal because your consciousness is already functioning at the new frequency, and your ego is attempting to run outdated programming on upgraded equipment. The mismatch creates enormous internal conflict. This is why some people go through what looks like total life implosion during transformation. They lose their work, or their partnership explodes, or they face a health emergency or money problems. Not because the universe is attacking them, but because their thinking mind is frantically trying to stay in control while their consciousness is attempting to break free. The external mess is just reflecting the internal battle. When you resist evolution, evolution still wins. But it wins by destroying whatever's blocking it. There's a different way. Instead of fighting the breakdown, you can cooperate with it. Instead of attempting to hold your old reality together, you can consciously take part in letting it dissolve. This doesn't mean walk away from your job or blow up your relationships or make huge external moves. It means stop acting like you're fine. Stop forcing yourself to care about stuff that doesn't resonate anymore. Stop maintaining a version of yourself that doesn't exist just because other people need you to stay consistent. The hands-on practice of this is easier than it sounds, but more challenging than it appears. When you notice you're in a conversation that feels hollow, stop playing along. Not in a rude way, but in an honest way. When you notice you're doing something purely because you're supposed to, that has no real resonance, stop. When you notice you're pretending to be sure about something you're actually uncertain about, speak the truth. Every time you pick genuine confusion over fake certainty, every time you pick real discomfort over pretend comfort, every time you pick unknown truth over comfortable lies, you're supporting the transformation instead of blocking it. Your transformation will finish, but what you become on the other side depends on how consciously you navigate this transition. Some people complete the shift and come out more whole, more real, more aligned with their true nature. Others complete the shift and come out wounded, unsteady, unable to operate effectively in normal reality. The difference isn't in how intense the breakdown is. The difference is in whether you resist or allow, fight or flow, close down or open up in response to what's trying to happen. Right now, bring attention to your body. Notice if there's holding anywhere. Your jaw, your shoulders, your belly, your chest. That holding is resistance. That's your system trying to stay in control, facing uncontrollable transformation. Breathe into wherever the holding is, not to eliminate it, but to bring conscious attention to it. To recognize that yes, this is scary. Yes, you don't understand what's happening. Yes, everything feels uncertain, and you're going to make it through anyway. Not because I'm guaranteeing you some enlightened destination, but because you've already made it through every single moment of your life, up until this one, including right now. The people who are supposed to understand what you're experiencing will show up, not through seeking or explaining or trying to make others see it. They'll just appear. You'll be at a cafe and someone will sit beside you, and within 3 sentences you'll know they're going through something similar. You'll be scrolling online and a message will stop you completely because the words capture exactly what you've been unable to express. You'll catch someone's eyes across a space and recognize something familiar even though you've never encountered them. These aren't accidents. These are people from your new resonance field becoming visible to you as you stabilize in your new frequency. The practical world will rearrange itself around your shift, not magically, but automatically. When your internal frequency transforms, your external situation must reconfigure to match. This is physics, not hopeful thinking. You're a transmitting antenna. Whatever frequency you're putting out, reality responds by sending experiences that align. When you were operating at your old frequency, you pulled in situations that match that range. As you stabilize in your new frequency, different situations will start showing up. Different chances, different people, different possibilities that weren't visible before because you weren't vibrating at the frequency where they live. But this only functions if you don't try to manage it. The second you start attempting to manifest particular outcomes or push specific changes, you drop back into ego control. The transformation wants to bring something beyond what your current thinking can picture. If you tell it what you want based on your old identity's wishes, you'll block what's actually attempting to come through. The guidance is simpler and more challenging than manifestation methods. Allow the breakdown. Trust the dissolving. Stay present with not understanding, and let reality reorganize itself without your management. The time frame for transformation completion changes. For some people, it's 6 weeks from start to integration. For others, it takes 6 months. The length isn't what's important. What matters is recognizing you're in it, so you stop resisting it. The worst pain comes from thinking you should be past this already, that something's broken in you for not having answers yet, that you need to work it out and pull yourself together. You don't need to work anything out. You need to let yourself come apart consciously with as much awareness and as little fighting as you can manage. Write down what you're going through, not for posting online, not for anybody else, but for you, because your thinking mind is going to try to erase these memories once you stabilize. It's going to create a smoother story after the fact, where you had more control and clarity than you really did. But if you document the chaos, the confusion, the fear, the strangeness as it's happening, you'll have proof later that you survived something that seemed impossible. And that proof becomes healing for others moving through their own transformation. In the comments, share one thing you truly want to bring into your life and why it matters to you right now. Maybe it's financial abundance. Maybe it's a loving relationship. Maybe it's health and vitality. Maybe it's something completely unique to you. Let this be a powerful declaration, a message you're transmitting not just here, but out into the quantum field itself. The next few weeks are crucial. This is where the integration either locks in or shuts down. Stay close to what feels authentic, even when it doesn't make logical sense. Create distance from what feels empty, even when it's comfortable. Trust your body's messages over your mind's stories. Pick uncertainty over pretend certainty. Allow connections to change or end without making it mean you're doing something wrong. Let your interests shift without judging yourself as inconsistent or flaky. Stop trying to be the person you were and start getting curious about who's showing up. You're going to be all right. Not in the way you imagined all right would be. Not in the way your old self defined success or stability or happiness, but all right in a way that's more genuine, more aligned, more actually you than anything you've known before. The breakdown is harsh. The confusion is disorienting. The not knowing is frightening. And on the other side of all that is a version of yourself that your present mind can't even imagine. A version operating from clarity instead of confusion, from authenticity instead of performance, from flow instead of force. Your transformation already started. You found this message because your system needed to understand that what's happening is real, is natural, is survivable. Thousands of people are moving through this exact process right this minute. Most of them believe they're alone, believe they're broken, believe something's wrong with them. But you're all part of the same wave, the same evolutionary impulse moving through human consciousness. Not special, but participating in something that's reshaping how humans experience reality. Stop fighting. Stop forcing. Stop pretending. Let it unfold. The life you're being delivered into is waiting on the other side of your willingness to let your old life complete. And it's already completing. You felt it the second you started reading. The knowing that there's no returning, only moving forward into space you can't chart from here. Trust that. Trust the breakdown. Trust the dissolving. Trust that whatever is attempting to emerge through you understands what it's doing, even when you don't. Your transformation is unstoppable. Now the only question is whether you'll flow with it or get dragged by it. Pick flow. Pick allowing. Pick conscious participation in your own evolution. Everything transforms from here. Not because you force it to change, but because you finally stop blocking the change that's been attempting to happen all along. Welcome to the other side of who you were. Welcome to the beginning of who you truly are. But let me share something nobody brings up in these discussions about transformation. Something that's probably already occurring but you haven't had language for yet. Your emotional capacity is expanding in ways that feel destabilizing, almost risky. You'll be at your desk and suddenly feel washed over by sadness that has no obvious origin. Not grief about something particular, just sadness, pure, ancient, endless sadness that feels like it's moving through you instead of coming from you. And then, just as quickly, it shifts. Or you'll be walking outside and experience a surge of happiness so powerful it makes you want to laugh for no reason anyone else would get. This isn't emotional instability. This is your emotional body coming back to life after years of shutting down. Most people navigate existence with access to maybe 20% of their real emotional range. The rest gets filtered away, turned down, controlled because full-spectrum emotion is incompatible with operating in a world that needs you to be productive, pleasant, and predictable. But transformation doesn't care about your productivity. It's bringing back your complete range. And at first, that restoration feels wild, because you have zero practice holding space for emotions at this intensity. The particular emotion that's probably bothering you most is one that modern psychology doesn't even have a word for. It's not quite sadness, not quite yearning, not quite nostalgia. It's the sensation of mourning, a version of your life that never really existed, but that you'd been unconsciously building toward. The future you were working for, the identity you were growing into, the relationships you assumed would settle, the understanding you thought you'd eventually reach. All of that has been shown to be fantasy. Not because it was unreachable, but because it was built on who you were before the fracture, and that person isn't here anymore. So you're grieving someone who isn't gone. You're grieving yourself, the version of you that would have experienced that life, made those decisions, become that person. And this grief doesn't clear through acceptance or ending or moving forward. It clears through recognizing that who you're becoming has access to possibilities that version of you could never have reached. But you can't perceive those possibilities yet. You're in the gap between releasing what was known and receiving what's coming. And that gap requires you to grieve without understanding what's next. There's something else happening at the perception level that's probably making you question your mental state. You're starting to see through the act, not just your own act, but everyone's. You watch people in exchanges, and you can spot the exact second they drop what they actually wanted to say and substitute it with what they think they should say. You look at someone's face, and you can sense the space between the expression they're showing and what they're genuinely feeling underneath. You listen to people speak, and you register not just their words, but the belief structures creating those words, the wounds driving those beliefs, the fear guarding those wounds. This isn't criticism. It's not that you suddenly think you're superior to everyone else. It's that the filter that used to make social interaction smooth has been taken away. You're seeing the raw mechanics of human exchange, and those mechanics are draining to observe because you can't unsee them once they become clear. Every conversation turns into multiple layers happening at once. What's being spoken, what's being intended, what's being dodged, what's being defended, what's being wanted, and you're receiving all of it simultaneously. The toughest part is that you can't share this with people without sounding superior or crazy. How do you tell someone that you can sense the artificiality in their excitement without it sounding like blame? How do you handle a work meeting when you can feel that everyone is performing confidence while actually feeling lost and scared? How do you keep up relationships when you're conscious of the unspoken deals and unconscious arrangements that keep them intact? You can't, at least not in the way you used to. Some people will sense that you're perceiving more than they're okay with and will back away automatically. Not because you did anything harmful, but because unconscious patterns can't exist in the presence of someone who sees them clearly. Your simple presence becomes unsettling to people who need their illusions to stay unquestioned. And you can't fake that you don't see what you see just to keep others at ease. That would stop the transformation faster than anything else. Here's what's occurring in your nervous system that explains why everything feels so amplified right now. Your vagus nerve, which manages your entire automatic response system, is recalibrating. For your whole life, up until the fracture, your nervous system had adapted to respond to the world through a particular set of protective patterns: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. These patterns helped you handle your particular childhood, your specific family dynamics, your unique mix of experiences. They became automatic, invisible, just the way you are. But those patterns were built for a world that isn't here anymore. They're attempting to protect a version of you that's already disappeared. And as your consciousness upgrades, your nervous system has to upgrade too. It's learning to process information and respond to input without automatically triggering the old protective sequences. This recalibration is what's creating that jittery, overstimulated sensation you've been feeling. Your system is literally learning a new language. And while it's learning, everything feels slightly threatening because your old danger detection system isn't functioning reliably anymore. What supports this, surprisingly, is not attempting to calm yourself down. The urge to immediately comfort any discomfort, to manage your nervous system back into familiar zones. That urge is part of the old programming. Instead, practice being with intensity without needing to fix it. When your heart races for no clear reason, don't immediately reach for breathing techniques. Just notice. When you feel that electric aliveness in your body, don't try to ground it away. Let it move. Your system is building new capacity, and capacity builds through challenge, not comfort. There's a specific experience you've probably had recently that felt meaningful, but you dismissed because it seemed too weird to take seriously. You were by yourself, maybe in your vehicle or lying down, and for just a handful of seconds, you experienced yourself from outside, not like leaving your body, more like suddenly becoming conscious of yourself as a character in a story you're simultaneously watching and living. In that moment, you could see your entire existence as a unified pattern, could grasp decisions you'd made that never made sense before, could feel compassion for versions of yourself you'd been criticizing for years. That wasn't disconnection. That was perspective shift. Your consciousness briefly moved outside the first-person story it's been locked in and observed from a broader viewpoint. This is one of the core abilities that transformation is installing. The capacity to hold multiple perspectives at once, to be both the person living the experience and the awareness watching that person live the experience, to feel your emotions completely while also recognizing them as weather patterns moving through the vastness of what you actually are. This capacity is what lets you navigate the rest of the transition without getting demolished by it, because from the first-person viewpoint, the breakdown feels catastrophic. Everything you assumed was solid is revealed as temporary. Everything you assumed was true is shown to be incomplete. Everything you assumed was you is exposed as costume. But from the observer viewpoint, the breakdown is just data, information about what was never real to begin with. And that recognition doesn't create more suffering. It creates breathing room around the suffering that was already there. The transformation completes when these two viewpoints integrate. When you can be completely immersed in your human experience while simultaneously resting in the awareness that observes the experience, not split, not disconnected, integrated. You feel everything, respond to everything, engage with everything, but you're no longer stuck in the story your mind creates about what everything means. You're living the story while understanding it's a story, and that understanding changes everything about how the story plays out. You're closer than you realize. The fact that you're still here, still engaged, still willing to sit with uncertainty, means the integration is already occurring. The transformation that started weeks ago is reaching its completion phase. What comes next won't be what you picture. It will be simpler, more regular, less dramatic. Just you moving through your days, making decisions from a place that doesn't need to understand everything before moving, trusting yourself in a way you never could before. Not because you developed more confidence, but because you stopped believing in the separate self that needed confidence to begin with. Make sure you share this video with your loved ones. Remember, you're not just sharing, you're spreading consciousness and awakening. Be the friend who shares transformations, not just entertainment. Sharing this might just shift someone's entire week. Be that person. If you watched until now, you're not here by coincidence. Like to anchor it. Comment what resonated. Share this gift with one person, and subscribe because you're ready. Your life is about to become unrecognizable, even though nothing external might shift. The person who wakes up tomorrow will look like you, sound like you, have your memories and your connections and your duties, but they won't be you. They'll be who you become when you stop defending against what you actually are. And that person gets to exist in a totally different reality than the one you've been living in. Same world, different experience. That's what transformation delivers.